What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fresh Podcast, where we bring you everything fresh in entertainment. My name is Drew Brumfield, and before we start, I have a bit of an announcement. We now have a YouTube channel. Right now, it's just the podcasts that are on Spotify and everything else on there, but pretty soon we will be adding more content to it, including a brand new series called A Fresh Look, where I will be doing a more deep dive into a specific topic. And, with this being spooky season, the first episode will be on slasher movies and how they relate to gender roles. Yeah, you heard me right. That may sound like a wild idea, but you'll just have to wait and watch when it comes out this weekend. That is the weekend before Halloween. And to make sure you don't miss it, check out our YouTube page, the Fresh channel. The link will be in the description. Now, with that announcements out of the way, welcome. I'm joined once again with Randy. How you doing?
Doing great. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell.
There you go. I love the plug-in. And then Seth is back with us again. How you doing, Seth?
Been all right. It's been a bit since I've talked about Marvel stuff.
Yeah, and as he said, we are talking about Marvel, specifically Marvel's kind of expansion into new genres. Marvel going into the horror world with Werewolf by Night, a bit of a, not quite a movie, so it's more just like a bit of a short. Doesn't even reach
an hour special, if you will.
Yeah, special, better way to describe it, because it's a pretty short thing, but I found it quite entertaining. It's a bit more of the spooky take, but before we get too into it, always start with the pretty general thoughts without spoilers. Randy, just general idea, how'd you feel about this?
I enjoyed it. I liked that it was only about an hour long, and yet they were still able to keep me entertained and actually care about the characters instead of just being... They could have easily have dragged this out to the length of a movie, and maybe people just be like, oh, hurry up with it. So I really like that it was a more concise format.
Yeah. Seth, what about you? Do you absolutely hate this, or do you think you enjoyed it?
Oh, I like this quite a bit.
Yeah.
I am one of those people where my favorite cartoon episodes are always the Halloween specials. So this felt like the Marvel version of that. I agree with Randy on all his points. I think a shorter format is great, and especially taking a Marvel character, which I don't think many people know about. I would like them to do this going forward more often, where maybe something doesn't need to be a Disney Plus series. Maybe it could just be like a mini series or a special. But I like it, and I hope it's a sign of things to come.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we all had pretty positive looks on it. It's definitely different than most Marvel properties. Honestly, if it wasn't for a few references at the beginning, this really doesn't have any connection to the Marvel world. It's all brand new characters to the MCU. Obviously, they're from the comics, but for us, they might as well just be new characters. Because even for diehard fans, a lot of these characters are who? This is basic werewolf guy and swamp monster and very D-list characters. But they managed to do something pretty creative with this format. So we'll get into it. I think kind of one of the things that I really liked about it is that even though that every single character in this they're introducing for the first time, at no point does this feel like someone's origin story. It's not oh, we met this dude with kind of some face tattoos and stuff like that, and it doesn't immediately go into well, this is what they represent and how he got his powers and what he fights for and all that. No, we don't. We'll either just figure it out later or make our own assumptions, but no, we're not telling that story. And that goes for everyone. There's a bit of exposition with the Bloodstone, which is essentially the MacGuffin of this story. But as far as characters goes, at no point did I feel at no point did I feel like I wanted to like learn more about them or learn about their backstories. I was just kind of invested in the current story that they're in. But you know, just on characters in general, Randy, were there any like stick out characters for you with this cast? It's not the biggest cast.
I think honestly the two main leads did really well.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of initially, just because I didn't know the character, it's Elsa Bloodstone, and
Yes.
they just said Elsa, and I was just like, oh boy, let it go. But yeah, I thought she did really well, along with the werewolf Jack,
Yes.
and yeah, I think I really liked Jack quite a bit, having I guess, yeah, spoiler, whoops, I said main werewolf man. Jack's the werewolf.
It's pretty easy to figure it out, but
My bad.
nah, it's fine. This will be a spoiler for it. It's a very short thing. It's on Disney Plus. I feel like you can spoil it. There's not too much to spoil.
Listen, if you're watching like this spoiler review of Werewolf by Night, you brought this on yourself.
Yeah. But yeah, you say you like Jack, the werewolf.
Yeah, I just kind of his mannerisms and just as him being a werewolf, just being like, yeah, I'm here to like look out for my friend, basically to get Swamp Thing out of this like hunt ritual trial thing.
Swamp Thing is the DC character. Randy, I'm sorry, you're kicked off the podcast. This is Man
sorry.
Thing. This is the very
Man
different
Thing.
character. Man
Oh.
Thing. What next? You're gonna say Hawkeye and Green Arrow are the same, or Flash and Quick? No, I'm joking. They're the same character. I have a little fun fact about those characters, but I'll let you keep going about Jack.
But yeah, just kind of how it's kind of the opposite of like when he's a werewolf, he's just like, it's not himself, and so he, obviously is hurting and like hunting people and whatnot. And then when he's Jack, he's very thoughtful, and he's just trying his best to kind of help out people and not just like, oh, I'm here to get the bloodstone, or even if he was like how he's actually there, he's there to get his friend out, Man Thing.
Yes.
Get
Or as
him
he
out of
calls
this
him,
ritual.
Ted.
He totally could have just been like, all right, well, even though here comes Elsa Bloodstone and we, cross faces against each other for that first meeting, he's like, yeah, we should probably just avoid each other and, move along. Whereas pretty much every other person who's hunting Man Thing, even if when they come across another hunter, it's just like, all right, I'll kill you, just so you're out of my way.
Yeah.
So it's just the opposite thing there, which I don't know, I liked it.
He's an actual. The big duality is like he's a very polite person despite having this like wolf and like beast persona. But I will say it is interesting that like Marvel just kind of took the classic like Wolfman story and we're just like, yeah, we're just gonna do that and take that character, put some face paint on him. No one will know the difference. But I'm glad you brought up probably my favorite character of Ted, aka Man Thing.
Yeah, just Ted.
Ted, yeah, because that's what they call him. Because Jack's not gonna call him Man Thing. He's gonna call him by his real name, which was Ted. But fun fact about Man Thing, the creator of Man Thing and the creator of Swamp Thing, which is the essentially DC equivalent, both those guys went to college together. Then they, left, worked for these big companies, and like Man Thing was created, and then a week later, Swamp Thing was. So it's like that's way too close for them to be a ripoff, but they were essentially like made at the same time. Technically, Man Thing was first by like literally like a week or something. But that's like my whole like tidbit about these, and also like Swamp Thing. Neither of these are very popular characters, but Swamp Thing at least got a little bit more popular than this guy. So, but speaking of Man-Thing, or other characters. Seth, who stuck out to you?
I kind of feel like the same with like Randy. I really did like Jack. I thought he was just he was goofy in a way that was not like typical Marvel type humor, where it felt like he was trying to be witty. He just felt like a genuinely nice guy. It felt like when he wasn't the werewolf, he was kind of like a pacifist almost, where he just didn't want to fight anyone. So I like that duality with that, his like very meek, kind of polite self versus his werewolf side, which, yeah, it's pretty much like you've seen that in other werewolf stories. And I imagine why Werewolf by Night was created by Marvel was so that they could do Wolfman without paying Universal their rights for Wolfman, which is fine. They don't have a monopoly on werewolves.
You tell him, Seth. Yeah, you tell Universal.
But, yeah. I mean, to be fair, at least they gave us a good, like, modern update to a classic monster with Marvel stuff than anything that Universal has put up with their MonsterVerse stuff in the past 10 years.
Seth, are you saying you weren't a fan of the hit shows The Mummy or Dracula Untold, or what else did they do? What was the other one?
Yeah, they did a couple of different Frankenstein ones, I believe. I'm not sure if they were connected to the MonsterVerse. I remember Russell Crowe was supposed to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in The Mummy.
I think that's also a really good cast, and unfortunate for him. I feel like he would have done well in that role.
They really good actors for those movies, but they really wasted their talents. Like, they even have Tom Cruise for The Mummy. I don't like Tom Cruise, but I can admit that he's a really good actor. So, wasted potential there. Yeah. Anyways, let's talk about Werewolf by Night.
The point of this podcast.
I think the coolest thing is I ended up liking all the characters in little different ways, just because they do a good job of, they don't have a lot of screen time, but they do eat up, like, they have like really great personalities. I can't think of his name, but the big dude with the axe, the way he kind of like, I don't know, like he seems like a big jovial kind of fellow. Yeah. And then he tries to like axe murder you as soon as he sees you in the maze. Like, I really like that. I really like, I can't think of her name, but like basically I guess you could say Elsa's stepmother.
Yeah.
That's the impression I was getting.
To help you out with some names, the man that you were thinking of with the axe, just because I have IMDb opened up, his name is Joven, and then the woman you're thinking of is like, how the hell?
Is it like Verussa or something?
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
Verussa. I'm looking at the spelling and I'm like, Verussa. So that word. She was definitely the hammiest performance out of all of them, and I love that, honestly. She was a great villain here. Yeah, I think. No, go ahead. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. But like, I think, especially since her like a lot of this this special is supposed to be a callback to older style horror films. So we're talking about like the OG, like Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, the creature from the Black Lagoon. I feel like Verussa especially embodied like the hamminess of it, and I think she did a great job. I love seeing her on screen. Yeah. I also, just a weird thing, but I just generally like the design of the different hunters. I like the one dude who like the sword, and he kind of has like a fencing style about him. It looked like a scimitar, but I can't be for sure if it was. Was he the first girl that she? Oh wait, no, you're talking about the one that Elsa kills at the end. At the end, okay, then the one she gets into a sword fight with. Yeah, and like he has that like. You're not talking about the one where they have like that mace that's, or the. Not a mace. I can't think of the word, but like it's on the chain and it's like the spike
flail.
Ball. Yeah, the flail. Yeah, the
flail. Yeah, that character's is Azarel. Is their name? I can't remember their names, but they look cool. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I remember their kind of character design. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool.
Well, another one
and
I really
we never learned like anything about them, but I was just like, that's cool character design, and I mean, for an hour short like for an special.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
and-
think we really needed to learn anything about them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, like, our time is brief, so they just have to make an impact, and I think that matters more than anything else when you have this short of a show. And I like that. I like those designs. I like the dude who had basically the Phantom Blade from Assassin's Creed Unity. He had like the little like wrist crossbow. That was super cool. My favorite character though is the Flaming Tuba Man.
I was
think
wondering
is
if you were gonna bring.
credited.
I was waiting. I literally had a joke set up whenever like you got your point out. I was like, actually, Seth, the heaviest character is Flaming Tuba Guy. I'm so glad you brought him up.
I don't think he says a damn thing.
He doesn't.
But he is so cool. I hope that was. I think that's practical effects. This is dude playing into a tuba with flames coming off of it, and it's equal parts funny and in a weird way because it's shot in black and white. It does look creepy. Like
Yeah.
I don't understand how. It's just like it's a good combination of funny and unnerving at the same time. I like that. It's a really cool visual.
I love the Flaming Tuba so much. I have I don't know why, but I really agree with you where like it's such an iconic image that it's not an important part of the story. It shows up once and it's not like they use it at the end to like fight the bad guy or something. It's really just to start this ceremony, start the hunt. But it's a really cool like image. And yeah, this whole show has like really good imagery like throughout it, and a lot of that does have to do with like, you know, it being in black and white, which allows it to like get away with more stuff. Like, so Seth, did you think that like the choice to make this entire thing into black and white, do you think that helped it?
It was the thing I thought that was best about Thor: Love and Thunder was when it went black and white, and this is the same thing. It's just like, yeah, in black and white, it looks great. Like I said, it pays homage to those older films, and I think it just makes things more eerie. I love the maze set that they used in this show, and the fact that it's lit up by like these torches, and it's just at night, and it's like a mist on the ground, and all like the lighting and stuff. It works perfectly with the black and white film. I love it, especially since it does cool things when they do add color, like the Bloodstone itself, and towards the end. I really like when they start adding those touches of color.
Yeah, I did enjoy it for the most part. My one kind of like negatives about this will be actually the one thing that I think it has to do with the black and white and like the set design is for like when this movie started, I could not tell what year it was, and then by the end you kind of figure out that like, oh, this is like modern day, like this is like today is when this is. When I was watching it, I was like, what is it, like 1920s or something, or like Victoria era like stuff, and then like it kind of goes to like color, and I was like, oh, she's in like regular clothes, and I think at one point like pulled out like a cell phone or something, and I was like, oh, I don't know.
the guys with stun batons not give it away.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was what it was. Like when the guards showed up and they had like electric like they had like police uniforms and stun batons. I was like, oh, this is like today. I was
Or
watching
like
this.
just leftover props from like Loki. They kind of look a lot like
They
the TVA
did look like the
guards.
TVA. They looked exactly.
It was actually the TVA.
I think maybe there's some fan theory out there that like the monster or the hunters are TVA agents. But yeah, they looked a lot, and like that's the other thing is like some of the costumes, at least like the background characters in the set, and I feel like part of this was stylistic, but it very much felt like this was a cheap set. This was not, you know, $1 million, or if this was $1 million like Marvel idea, all that money went into Man-Thing, and nothing else. So, because the sets do kind of look a little cheap. It's not like high, big production. There's not CGI everything like your typical Marvel thing. But that said, it does kind of like add to this effect that like you really feel like you're watching like one of those old school like 1930, 1940s like black and white like horror movies. Like you're watching, Wolfman or Creature from the Black Lagoon or something like that. So I don't know. It has like a very unique like atmosphere and setting that we haven't seen before. But the other thing that this show, or this, what do we call this? I don't know. This mini show does. Special. Thank you. I was gonna get there eventually. Special. The other thing the special does is it's a little bit gorier than your traditional Marvel show, and that's because it is in black and white. They can get away with that. Randy, how did you ever think like were you ever surprised by the gore? Did it ever shock you, or do you think like it was a nice touch?
I was surprised just because it was Marvel, and so I was not expecting there to be that much, or if there were any, it's kind of just cut away. And I think the first instance of gore we get is when Elsa's fighting the little like crossbow wrist dude.
Yeah. The Unity guy.
Yeah, Unity dude.
His name's Lauren. I think his name is Lauren.
She cuts off his freaking arm, and I was just like, "Oh, let's go, Marvel!"
Marvel's getting.
Yeah, and so that kind of like set the tone to where I was like, "Okay, cool." So they're not just gonna be like, "Oh, we cut away from everything." Like people will die, but like it's just off screen, or like they'll just get like thrown into the walls. I'm like, are they dead? Or are they just knocked out? I don't know.
I think there were two moments for me that like really did it for me. One's not even that gory, but it's when one of like the hunters like run into Man-Thing, and I had to like figure out, like me and Seth had to like look up like why he has this power. But he just kind of grabs them, and then they just disintegrate in his hand. And and Seth, what was like I think we found
it's like a little song and dance motto.
Yeah.
But it is those who know fear burn at Man-Thing's touch. So I guess if you're afraid of Man-Thing, he'll burn you.
I think when like I don't remember him doing that in the comic, and I feel like it's just one of those things like when they wrote that, I was like, that wasn't supposed to be taken literal. But it made it, but like it's such a cool power actually. That
it's like, I think that's metaphorical, right?
Yeah, clearly not in this. It's very literal now. But I just remember like because again, I don't know anything about Man-Thing, so I'm like, oh, he's probably like Swamp Thing. He's gonna use like some tentacles or some vines and stuff, and then he just has this like energy plasm that's like turns someone into ash. I'm like, oh my gosh, that person's just very dead. And then
it's always see the skin burned off of people. That's a really cool way of doing a PG-13 death.
Yeah, but then they kind of throw that one out the window when Jack does, eventually turn into a werewolf. Spoilers, there's a werewolf in Werewolf by Night. And then he makes it out of the cage and he's fighting the not TVA agents, and then just starts ripping people apart. At one point, he's just like tearing someone like insides out, and he gets blood on the camera. And then there's a bit of a Marvel, Disney, between Star Wars and Marvel, they love their little hallway scenes. He has this like long shot in the hallway. He's just jumping off the walls and just tearing people up. I think he like ripped someone's arm off at one point.
I think it's in a couple of good neck fights as well.
He does, yeah. He gets a few neck fights. That's the other like kind of PG.
Some good chompies in.
Yeah, the other PG-13 is like a good. You bite them, so all it looks like you see the back of their head, but you do see him like come up, and it's black and white, but you can tell it's like, yeah, that's someone's throat you're like chewing on. So that's a good. There's like a very good. That like end fight is like a very good showcase. So like, no, okay, we're willing to like get away with stuff. So this is something that like I know we've talked about in the past, but I wanted to bring it up to you again. Do you think like this, them kind of leaning more into like, it's kind of R, or like a little bit more violent? Do you think this is like Marvel's way of leading people into the idea of like, no, we can be a Disney show and also be like an R-rated series or movie or something like that?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that the reason why we're starting to see a little bit more graphic content in Marvel stuff, like there was some scenes in Moon Knight, there was scenes in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and then here in Werewolf by Night. I think Disney / Marvel is trying to prep their audience for when they do start doing more like R-rated heroes. Like, I mean, with Deadpool coming out in the next few years, with Blade hopefully coming out at some time. Yeah. I think Marvel wants to lay the groundwork where it's like, okay, we want to be able to do these R-rated heroes and we want to do them justice, but we have got to get our audiences on board with, like, there might be some more graphic content. I think that's why you're starting to see them be okay with putting on Disney Plus, like the Netflix Daredevil show, Punisher, you know, that kind of stuff, and the old Deadpool movies.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it might be less of getting their audience on board, because I think the audience is there.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's more of just showing Disney, like, see, this still does well.
Yeah. We're making
Please let
money.
us make this rated R.
Yeah.
We made the money.
Yeah.
Let us do our thing, please.
I could see that. And that's one of the biggest complaints about Marvel. I mean, we did a whole podcast about this. It's like a lot of Marvel content is starting to like get stale, and one of its biggest complaints is the fact that everyone keeps saying, "Oh, every Marvel movie's the same. Everything is just the quippy action movie," and it just gets very samey and very similar. And I feel like this is kind of their, you know, part of their answer, where it's like, well, let's start expanding into different genres. Like, you know, we talked about it last week. She-Hulk is more of a sitcom type show than anything superhero related, honestly. And this being leaning into horror, it's taking it's doing something different. It's taking risk. I mean, I guess not too big of a risk. This isn't a big screen thing. It's a straight to Disney Plus special, but still kind of, you know, dipping your toes in the water of, let's expand these characters. Let's not do the same thing people have, you know, been looking at for over 13 years now or something. So I think that makes me want to like respect this like series more, because it is different. It's going in a different direction, and I think Seth brought up a little bit. I do hope that this leads to more you know, specials in the future where, you know, we don't need an entire like 2-hour long movie about a certain character, or we don't need like a whole show about it. I think this is a good middle ground to be like, let's just, you know, a couple of our D-list characters that we have some fun ideas for, let's put them in this. And I think a format like this would have made the Hawkeye series a lot better if it was just a series to introduce Kate Bishop versus like a multiple like episode type thing. But with that, Seth, are there any characters, or like maybe not even characters, but just like genres you want to see with this type of format in the future, like where it's not a TV show, it's not a 2-hour long movie, it's a very short, just like special type thing?
I think this is just me thinking way far ahead, but when inevitably we do start to get into X-Men, I know that X-Men is like, those are usually ensemble movies because it's about the team. But it would be kind of cool to see some of these specials focus more on individual characters as well. Maybe characters who don't necessarily need a whole movie to themselves, but maybe a special would work better, like a Nightcrawler special.
I was waiting for you to waiting for you to bring up my favorite character.
Nightcrawler or Rogue, you know, those kinds of characters,
like Rogue,
where I think, especially if you watch like the X-Men animated series, you probably know who those characters are, but if you don't, it'd be a great way of explaining like who they are, especially since like Nightcrawler is really cool and Rogue is really powerful, depending on the situation, so people might want to learn a little bit more about her.
I think I agree with you. X-Men is like it's a big roster. It's a lot of different characters. I mean, it's not just Wolverine. You got your Cyclops, your Professor X's, your Storm. I think Storm would be also a good example for this. Maybe a Jubilee. maybe Quicksilver, but actually kind of do him right. But that's a whole mess right now. Or just make a boner joke about him again. I'm still a little petty about that, not gonna lie, but that's fine. So, but I think this format works. Seth, I know you brought up the idea of Nova, like,
okay,
when we were talking about.
I want to put this out there. I wasn't bringing up the idea. The rumor right now is they might be repurposing Nova into a special rather than a show. So I don't want to say I wanted it. I'm just saying that might be what's going on. And
I can. On paper, I'm like, yes, that's probably a better idea. But also in my mind, I love Nova, which is probably like, I love that character. He's been in a couple like different like TV shows and series, and I think Nova's sick. And I would want him to have his own movie. I would want him to expand because Nova is a legacy character. There's been multiple different versions of him, and he has all these stories, and he's kind of like the Green Lantern of the Marvel world, where he travels around planets and does more of the space stuff. And I think that could really work. But I do also agree that like he's not your Captain America. He's not your Iron Man. He's not your big hero. So he wouldn't. I could get that maybe he doesn't deserve like his big, a big show. Though I guess to be fair, neither were Eternals or Shang-Chi, and look at them. But anyway, I still think that like I like this format, and I want this to keep going in the future. So I'll go back to Randy with and Randy, do you think that going out of like Marvel characters, would you want to see this format done with like other monster movies, maybe more horror type shows, like if they do a version of Frankenstein or the Mummy or Dracula, except don't call them the names I just said because I'm pretty sure those are copyrighted.
I think you can get away with Dracula.
Yeah, I think you might be able to get away with Dracula, but you can't do Frankenstein. But I mean, I think like the Mummy or Creature, I guess, yeah.
I think, yeah, I've kind of noticed as I've started to watch more horror movies in general, I think they do lend themselves to being a shorter format in comparison to like a 2.5 hour film or whatever. They're either like right at 2 hours or even under. Like I just watched Halloween Kills, and that was just under 2 hours, and I think that lends itself to being a shorter format. So I think that it'd work well, to have kind of that Disney money, take a shot at some of these other classic horror movies. It would, I think it'd lend itself well. There were like some issues I had, less about the format with Werewolf by Night, but I think format-wise it was done well.
Okay. So when you say you had some issues with it, I guess, we've been talking a lot of like positives about it so far. What are some of like the issues you did have with it?
Okay, I think the only issue I had was wanting, it was, I guess, very Marvel action. And I was fine with kind of having, Elsa, pretty much be like, ooh, I got these, karate spin moves on this big guy and whatnot. And the rest of the action was fine. I think the only thing is, while yes, the werewolf, when Jake transformed into the werewolf, was being brutal, I saw him do like combat rolls, stuff like that, and like that just kind of threw me off, like doing a combat roll, and I think he like jumped off the wall and like drop kicked a dude basically, or like karate kicked him.
He's a tactical werewolf. He's got that wolf jujitsu or whatever.
So that just like really threw me off. I was like, I'm enjoying this action scene overall, and I enjoyed the like the amount of blood and stuff they did with him but I wanted him to be more, I guess, brute-esque
Yeah.
in comparison to kind of, I guess, more acrobatic.
Yeah.
Which I mean, maybe they made him more acrobatic because he was still a smaller build. They didn't go crazy CGI and make him look like Venom or something where he's massive.
I think
I think they could have kept him that same size, but instead of having him like jump off that wall at someone, just had him kind of bull rush at someone. And even though they're hitting him with the little taste stick things, it's not slowing him down. He just rushes down. Rushes someone down and like rips them apart.
I think I see
kind of situation in comparison to like, oh, I'm gonna do a quick dodge and jump off the wall and then get you. And I don't know. I just wanted it to be more brute-esque.
Yeah, I get what you mean. More like visceral, more violent. Because I think I also remember at one point.
Yeah, it just felt more like Marvel karate. Everyone knows ninja moves.
At one point, he like blocks. I think he like blocks a punch or something, and it's like, he should just run into it. I will say, a little bit to its defense is a lot of times like when he's jumping and doing like, it's wire work. But when I was seeing those, my first thought was it reminded me a lot of those kind of traditional. Have you ever seen like the traditional like Wolfman? I think that's what it's called, like the black and white movie. Or a lot of times when they like do things like that, they have him jump in that weird way. So that kind of felt more like a homage, but I get what you mean, and I'm glad.
It was just the more ninja-esque type of stuff. I was fine with him having like these giant leaps and stuff. It makes sense, he changes into this Wolfman. He's really strong, and he's allowed to like, lets him jump further distances and stuff like that. But it's just kind of the jumping off the wall and to like kick someone or something like that. I was just like, what's happening here?
I understand what you mean.
How does he know karate?
He should.
How does Wolfman know karate?
It's wolf jujitsu, Randy. But like when he becomes a wolf, he should just be like just an animal. Like he just attacks whatever.
Just a brute that runs you down.
Like he just attacks whatever's in front of him, and he just go. And the only time he stops is when he gets confronted by Elsa, and it's like, wait a minute. You smell familiar. I'm gonna go kill something else, but I'll check on you in a sec. But I think I agree with that. Yeah, that ending, while it is like violent and gory, it could have been a bit more. I think that it was also a bit toned down, where it's, if this was like a real like Wolfman, like his arm would have gone through someone, or he would have like chomped on someone's heart or something insane. And I don't expect that from Marvel at this stage, but I'm hoping that like at some point we do get to that point where he can be more like, he's not even thinking while he's fighting. He just attacks and attacks. So what about you? How did you feel about like kind of the action, not just that scene, but just like the action scenes in this series? Or in, special. I'm going to get it right eventually.
I thought it was fine. I really thought the action was fine. I especially think like what you interpret as like acrobatic and stuff like that. To me, because like what I thought was interesting with how Jack fight was he fought more animalistically. Like he would be, when you said a combat role, but to me he was crawling on all fours and like going for people's legs. Like he was like a really pissed off dog. Like a lot of like sweeps and going for legs and pinning them on the ground and stuff. And it's just me personally. I thought the action was fine. I will say that probably my biggest criticism, I do agree though, is I do wish that this could have been a little bit more gory, and I think that there is ways that they still could have kept the TV-14 rating and still do that. I think there could have definitely been more limbs torn off. I mean, we've already seen.
We already did one. Might as well just open the door to all of them.
Yeah, because like Disney Plus also with like some of the Star Wars series, like they've already like torn off limbs there. So I don't see why not here.
Black Stanton rips a dude's arms off. So
dude, in Multiverse of Madness, Wanda like blows someone's head off, rips someone like apart, and then like cuts Captain Carter in half. You can.
Although it's more implied. You don't see him physically get cut in half.
Okay, the shield goes under the camera and then her body slides off. You're like, come on. I don't know. I don't know how much more implied
it doesn't show the wound. Like, thing is, like, it doesn't show the wound, which, like, that's how they get around the PG-13 rating. That's fine. Um, I do agree that like I feel like they could have had a little bit more leeway. Like I said, they could. I definitely agree with like there could have been more limbs ripped off. It was cool to see Barusa's head like fly off after Man Thing threw her burnt body, and that was cool.
And then he just doesn't he like chuck her like ashes into like the remains of her husband or something?
Yeah, he does. So I thought that was funny. I liked it. I feel like I can't really criticize it too much because, you know, for something that only has like a 50-minute runtime, I think it does everything that it possibly could do. Yeah. Like, it doesn't try to get bogged down with detailing who these characters are. So if I have issues like, I wish there was more world building or a little bit more explaining of what's going on, I think we would need a longer special then.
Yeah. I will say,
at that point, it's not a special, it's a movie.
Yeah. I will say, there were some moments that I was like, okay, I would have liked a little bit, even if it's just a line of, how does Jack know Ted? Or like, what is Ted, or what, yeah, like, who is Ted? What is Man Thing? Because that was, like, he's just a monster. But Man Thing's, like, origins is like, no, he was a human at one point. I'm pretty sure, like, he was a human that, like, got, like, into, like, experiments and science stuff, and now he's that. I'm pretty sure either that or I'm mixing up with Swamp Thing, which is a possibility. Like, so I think I would have liked a little bit of explanation, other than just like, yeah, no, they're mates, and that was it. But that's probably more of a, I think what they're doing is, that might be like something they set up in like in the future. Maybe like in a year next Halloween, Man Thing gets his own special, or maybe like sometime during Blade, you know, he'll track down Jack. Which does kind of lead me to, you know, my question is, how, you know, assuming you guys do want to like see these characters in the future, where do you want to see it? Do you want to see them in like a completely other special, or do you want to see them get their own thing, or like just show up in other people's story? And I'll start with I guess Seth the last question, so I'll start with Randy.
I think I'd like to see them. I guess they could start to show up in other things, but I think it'd still probably mostly be specials. Unless they start to build some sort of giant movie universe.
Yeah.
But I see that less likely for this.
Well, they'll build their own. They're just like ignoring
We'll
Universal.
do the Monsterverse.
Yeah, we'll do our own monster universe.
Fine, I'll do it myself.
Honestly, I would. I love the Marvel reference. Honestly, I think I'd be okay with like their own monster verse if they're just like, we're just gonna do it ourselves. If like this is like what they're like thinking about. But yeah, I think it's weird. I don't know what they're going to do with these characters. If it's just like, this is like the only thing they'll ever show up in.
Yeah, just kind of a fun one-off.
Yeah.
Which I'm also almost okay with too. Like, I feel like not everything has to always be connected all the time. It can just kind of have these fun monster one-offs, and it doesn't have to be this giant thing. Like maybe like Elsa Bloodstone, like she moves on. But then I don't know, in whatever thing she shows up and she's like, yeah, I helped like this wolf and this like swamp-looking creature, but that's for another time. Like just that, and then that like, well, what was that other time? And then you can go watch the special.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What about you, Seth? What do you want the future of these characters to be?
I mean, I would like to see them more, but I kind of agree with Randy, where it's like, it's not a pressing need. I don't need to see them again, but I'm pretty sure we will, especially since Werewolf by Night does seem to be a success. So, I don't know. If they did a little, I would honestly be down for every year they did a little Halloween special with Werewolf by Night. Like, I'd be down for something like that, just another special. I do think, like, getting into the more paranormal, kind of, like, darker side of the Marvel Universe, I could totally see, like, a series also coming from that. So, I guess what I'm saying is like I'm cool with seeing them in any format.
Yeah.
To be honest, and like I said, I like spooky things. I like more of like the monster type stuff. So I hope, I really hope Disney embraces that a little bit more.
Yeah. There's definitely a I forgot. I can't think of like the name for it. I know DC and Marvel both have like their versions of like this kind of spooky, more supernatural like elements in their show, but I could definitely see it like them doing like this becomes almost like a yearly tradition where it's a bit more of a smaller budget project, but every like October they're like, and um here's like vampires at dawn or something. I don't know, something a bit probably don't call it that. Probably don't call it what I just said because that'd be a stupid like title. But them just kind of like keeping this tradition up. Yeah, I have no desire to. I think honestly, the only one who like I kind of want to see more of is actually Man Thing. I don't know why I have such a fascination with this character, but I'm like, I feel like he'd be really
It's just
funny.
a good swamp tentacle boy thing.
You almost
and
called
you
him a
just,
swamp thing.
you want to see
again.
him do well.
You're so close to calling him a swamp thing.
Yeah, it's still swamp man.
A swamp
thing.
person. But I liked him. I liked how like there's something about like the big giant that's also like innocent. Like he's very Iron Giant to me, and I love that kind of character. Where like he's this destructive force that could like kill like a bunch of people and be a monster. But he's like, oh no, I just want to hang out with my buddy Jack and like eat garbage
And have
in the
coffee.
woods. Yeah, have coffee in the that's what they're yeah, have coffee in the woods and make fun of him for talking to a girl
And being
or
like, I saved you.
yeah, it's like I saved you, and then joke about him that he didn't actually get with anyone. I don't know. I think I liked him even though like he had incredibly low screen time, and I was like I think that could be a fun character. Want Man Thing to show back up, and especially since like when I saw him I was expecting Swamp Thing's personality. And Swamp Thing's personality is like he's like I'm all about the green, I'm majestic, and I don't even fight for good or evil. I just want to protect my area, my swamp. He's like Shrek. But I saw Man Thing and I was expecting the same thing. And I was very pleasantly surprised like, oh no, he's not that. He's not what everyone like thinks of him. So I hope he comes back. But really, the only project that would make sense is like maybe a Blade, or a Deadpool if they make a joke about it. But then, yeah, if we're being really realistic, it's probably another like special type thing. So maybe next year they do like the swamp creature, or just call it Man Thing. But that's kind of I don't know. That's just wild speculation at this point. And before we wrap it up, is there anything else that, like, Seth, is there anything else you want to talk about that I didn't get a chance to ask you about Werewolf by Night?
Not really. I think the only thing else I can add to this is really good atmosphere in this show.
Yeah.
Really hard to find, like, other, like, not that Marvel properties don't have atmosphere, but nothing quite as like tangible or as like thick as this. Like I said, the set design and music and black and white filter really sold like the atmosphere of this. So I just wanted to praise that some more. I need to get fact checked on this, but I believe the director on this is his directorial debut. I think he's the same dude who's been doing a lot of the musical tracks. Like I think he did the musical track for The Mandalorian. I need to be checked on this, but I think that's this dude's background.
He is a composer, and yeah, he's a composer for he did Doctor Strange. He did She-Hulk. He actually did Rogue One, Up and Ratatouille. Okay, yeah, he's done a lot of Marvel properties, and I think I can't see.
Did you mean Disney properties?
Sorry, yeah, Disney properties. Wait, let me see. Did he also direct?
Last time I checked, Up wasn't part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Joke's on you. Okay. So, from what I'm looking at, he might have done like one of like the Star Trek like a Star Trek short, but this is like his like actual big debut. Like he has two names, like two things under his name. It's like an episode of Star Trek and then this. So, and it's not like one of the old it's Star Trek like short treks. It's like a almost like standalone kind of specials like this is.
Yeah.
So, but yes, he is mostly a composer.
That's cool. Like, I think that's cool that, like, this is a guy who doesn't really have a background in directing necessarily, but I think he did a pretty good job here.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
Maybe he's a guy to, just saying, just keep an eye on him. He might be up to something.
He also apparently was a voice for one of the First Order troopers and was a reporter in Ratatouille. Not like the main one, not like the food critic y'all think about, but just... he also voiced a First Order trooper in Wreck-It Ralph. I guess he was also in that. Wait, was he? I'm assuming he did the soundtrack for that movie too, or maybe they just found him. Anyway.
Also, have we stated his name?
Did Seth not say?
Unfortunately, it's kind of a complicated name.
It's Michael. It's Michael.
Jean-Jo or something like that.
Jean-Jo.
Oh God, this is why we're not allowed to say anything.
Michael.
We're too white for this.
His name is Michael. Y'all know who we're talking about. Y'all figure it out. These people need to have easier names to say. But he's
racist.
Yeah. Just gotta throw that in there. Okay. Randy, any closing thoughts from you?
Overall, I hope, that Disney does more of these kind of like, or Marvel, I guess, does more of these little short specials, especially with the horror format. But it'd be cool to see them try other formats too, just kind of experiment around with it.
Yeah, I agree with him. I agree with you. I want to see more Man-Thing. That's the big takeaway. # bring Man-Thing back. But with that said, that is everything we have to talk about with this series. And now, as we always do at the end of our shows, we give you our either fresh or round picks of the week. And these are things that we have been either playing, listening to, or watching. They might not be new, but they're new to us, and we've been really enjoying it. To start us off, Seth, you told me that you have a little bit more spooky fresh pick, or a seasonal fresh pick, I think is how you said it.
Say seasonal.
Seasonal, okay.
Maybe not exactly spooky, but it's definitely something to get you in the mood.
Okay.
I've been playing I've had it for a while, and it's on Game Pass, thankfully.
Yeah.
It's called Costume Quest.
Okay.
It is made by Double Fine. Those are the people who made things like, I believe, Grim Fandango, Day of the Tentacle, I think.
They did
I know
that,
for sure, though,
they did
they
that
made
one,
Psychonauts.
Yeah, I would say they did that one like Jack Black game where he like is like a heavy metal like wizard.
Brutal
or something.
Legend. That's
Brutal
right.
Legends.
They also did that. So, anyways, so Costume Quest is basically, it is a turn-based RPG. Very short. You can definitely beat it in about like 6 or so hours. It's a cute RPG about kids dressed up in their costumes fighting monsters. It's very simple, but it's cool, and it does a lot of really cool RPG mechanics and translate it actually very well to Halloween. Like, for example, one of the big mechanics in it is you go trick-or-treating. When you knock at a house door, it's trick-or-treat. You either get candy, just kind of like the currency in the game, because an adult gives it to you, or a monster answers the door, and it's a trick, so you have to fight them. So it's kind of cool to, like, it takes, like, the old school RPG, like, kind of combat encounters and translate it that way. It's really fun. The costumes are cool, and, like, there's, like, neat little things, like, you can build a vampire costume, and weirdly, the vampire is actually, like, a healing class, so whenever you use, like, their, like, ability, it not only does damage to the enemy, but it also, like, heals your squad mates, which is very fun. It's cute. It's funny because it's a Double Fine game and it's on Game Pass. So that's my recommendation. Costume Quest 1 and 2.
Costume Quest 1 and 2. All right, sounds good. Okay. Randy, what have you been playing, listening to, or watching this week?
No, initially before I said I didn't have a kind of a spooky or seasonal fresh pick, and said it in the middle of the podcast. Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends. Kills was the second one. Halloween Ends. Yeah.
Now,
I just watched that like last week.
Yeah. Is this fresh or run, or what is this? Did you enjoy it or completely hate
I
it?
enjoyed it. I've heard people don't like it, and I don't know what they're on about. I think some people didn't like it because it had less of Michael Myers in it, in comparison to before. It's more about this new character kind of becoming or taking on some of the things that Michael did as well, kind of turning into a similar person. He doesn't become like a new Michael Myers, but it's kind of similar-esque of Michael being like, yeah, see, you can kill people and, it feels good, doesn't it? Sort of situation. Feels good, and it's, I don't know, I liked it. I'm not trying to give away too much of the plot, but yeah, I mean, it's perfect. Halloween is quickly approaching, so why not watch Halloween Ends? You can either go see it in theaters or go see it on Peacock, I believe, has it.
Yeah.
Yep, it does. I'm personally excited to check that
and
out.
You can do a
point.
Peacock trial for like, you get or I guess not a trial, but there's, at least when I signed up for it, you could get a full year for like $20 or something like that. So, just do that and then put a reminder in your calendar to cancel it after a year if you don't like it. But I mean, hey, you get a whole year for $20, and I think it's normally like $50. So why not try it out?
And that would be a great movie to watch after you watch the first episode of A Fresh Look, which is about slashers and their comparison to gender roles, which will be coming out this weekend. A little shameless plug in there, but this is my podcast, so I can do whatever I want. I have not seen that movie yet. I probably will eventually.
I was going to say, are you going to try and cover it for that or no?
No, it has not. No,
you already wrote too much.
Yeah, no, there's no way I'm not gonna see that and like rewrite my script into that. But honestly, I don't want to give too much away about the episode.
It'll
but
still apply.
It will apply.
Right.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, majority of these slashers do apply to this format, so it'll be a good thing for me and for other people too. Hey, I'm gonna watch this series so I can be educated on slashers and like the deeper meaning behind them, and then you can go watch this, see, hey, does this apply, or is this just another like boring movie that is bad? Here's just I can't say, I haven't actually seen it yet. I probably will at some point. I've seen
watch it this weekend.
Maybe. I've seen actually majority of like the Halloween movies. I was almost considering putting one of them in there, but that is actually not my fresh pick. My fresh pick is a different kind of horror movie, and it is a much older movie. It is Misery, originally a Stephen King novel, but it is a movie, and it's a little quick synopsis. It's an author who, after writing a very successful series called Misery about this girl named Misery, it's not important. He's in this log cabin in a retreat, but he gets injured and saved by a fan. Except this fan is a little crazy and kind of keeps him bedridden longer than she should. And that is all I'm going to say in it, because I think it's a great movie to go in blind. It is a very fascinating movie. If you are starting to get into horrors, but you don't really like jump scares and that kind of stuff, this is a great movie for you. There's not supernatural elements or anything like that. It is just a crazy person doing terrible things to another person. It's a really interesting character dive. I'm trying to figure out the person's name for this, but the lady in this, the fan, she actually won Best Supporting Actress the year this came out. It's gonna bother me. I'm looking it up as fast as
Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates, thank you. I was like, it's something Bates. And the only thing in my mind was coming up Norman Bates, like from Psycho. But Kathy Bates is phenomenal in this. She does a great job, and she's terrifying, even though she's just like a middle-aged woman. But it's a very like, creepy movie, and it's really enjoyable. It is on HBO Max. So if you have that, you can definitely watch it, and I highly recommend it. Or if not, it's a really good rent, and a different kind of horror movie. A bit more of a, if you're not into like the slashers and all the violence and all the gore, this is definitely one I would recommend. Well, with that said, that is everything with us. I want to thank both of my co-hosts today, Seth. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And Randy, thank you for always joining.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. And of course, we wouldn't be anywhere without. Thank you all for listening. This podcast has grown a lot. We are really close to a big mile mark for us. A few more listeners, and we might even start doing ads on this, which will be beneficial to us, the ones that actually do this. But yeah, this has grown a lot since we've started. So I want to thank you guys for watching and supporting. And with that said, thank you and have a good night.